welcome tonight, and I don't know if you've seen or viewed the previous video, but what we're going to do today is a continuation of our little project. So if I go back to the little project, you will find on GitHub this project, which is little Fullstack project to learn a lot of different aspects. Actually, if my main branch connected, but basically for each lesson, each video would be linked to a different branch. So the first thing we're going to do right now is go to our IDE and create a new branch. So git check out dash b, so that basically creates a branch that will specify customers for logging to that or create a name, and then I need to check out the branch we just created. So that would be one, and today what we're going to do is starting and if we finish we'll see how fast we can go through creating our authentication middleware. So middleware, not middleware, what did I say? Microservice. So we created both Microservice, okay, we created that branch, and we have a start. So that's at the start of the video, we can pick up that branch and do everything, and then at the end there will be an end branch, which will have all the changes that are at the end of the video. So I'm gonna push to remote that start one. Using the ID to do it. I'm not sure you can see what I'm doing with the ID. I can see the details over there. It's okay. So yeah, git push remote origin. Yeah, it won't just git push origin. So okay, so it's pushing in the GitHub. So if I look at GitHub, you can see that branch has been created, and we created with a branch, the one that actually works, with the end one, and we'll push it as well, and make set it true. So that basically creates on the GitHub the production branch. Here we go, and if we go on GitHub, then we'll start the end, and we currently on the end branch in the IDE. So the main thing is, what is a microservice? You can think it's a fancy word, and it's been thrown around quite a lot, and like if there's a microservice pattern, you need to know microservice, you need to use microservice. The main thing, you don't. Like there's plenty of websites that don't use microservice. Just really so you know, about 80% of the internet are WordPress sites. WordPress are just the most monolithic thing you can think of, and they're all built on PHP. You have a simple database, a CMS, and a website that is a multiple page application that is server-side rendered, and that's powering about 80% of the internet. So typically utilization involving microservice. But why did we see microservice coming out in the last, let's say, probably started in the last 10 years, but like in the last 5 years it's been becoming bigger and bigger, and that comes from mainly containerized application. So if you're not familiar with containers, I recommend you to read about Docker containers, because I recommend you to read about Docker containers, because if you don't know about it, you will struggle to understand. So pause this video, read about Docker containers, and so yeah, for this video, I assume that you know of business, you know about JavaScript, TypeScript, you already created a node server using Express or similar in the past, or you already used something like React in the past. Like, we're not gonna go over the business, we're just gonna go straight in, basically. So that's the first thing. The second thing, microservices, as it became popular to containerize application. Basically, rather than having a virtual machine that will be, you will have a virtual machine, on the virtual machine you will have your database, you will have your Apache server that will run your PHP site. That's how it used to be done. Nowadays, we tend to run things more in a container environment. So your database will run in a container. You will have one part of your website in a different container, and another part in another container. That's mainly for separation of concern, abstractions. You'll have a single server that can fail. You have multiple containers that are independent of each other. And the main thing of container compared to a VM, let's think about typical WordPress VM. Starting, you have to wait for the database to start, and then Apache to run, and things like that can take, I don't know, 2-3 minutes for a VM to start. For a container, we're talking about 10 seconds for it to start. So in terms of development time, the main thing is that container, you can start them and kill them as well, more easily. So the difference between container and VM is that container tend to be stateless, meaning they don't store any information. So you tell me, but what about databases? Well, you tend to mount a part of the distributor, speaking French, a part of your hard drive into a container. So it's not a container that all the state, it's actually saving it to a volume. So that's what you would do if you run a database. But other things like your web server or other servers would be relatively stateless, like you wouldn't write anything. That's why if you want to write logs or something like that, you will tend to use a third-party service like Logstash or Google Cloud Logs, I can't remember what they call it, but basically a third-party service that will have its own database and its own way of storing data, and you will use the API to save your logs. Once again, writing in a file that, let's be honest, you will struggle to actually manage and query that file without having specialized software for that. Because more often we use a session between a server and checking a file that is thousands of lines to find exactly what we want there. So that's kind of a bit overview of why microservice. So getting back to that, now that you can run things in container, actually you realize that you can have pieces of code that are independent from each other, they can start and stop independently from each other. And then you can have things where, you have a site where, let's say you have an e-commerce site, you have a bot that is in charge of getting your front page, for instance, with all your products. And then you have a bot that actually goes through the checkout, where typically for e-commerce sites you will have for 10 users, probably even 50 users that go on the website, probably only 1 or 2 will actually check out. So then you can say, hey, why don't you have a big machine that can handle 1,000 users viewing the site and 1,000 people checking out if I never have more than 100 people checking out. So that's where microservices come into place, where they can have bigger, more containers for you, more containers for you, all that display the website, and then less containers for the one that, that would have a less power, less CPU basically, for the part that just handles the checkout. And that's where microservices come from, where you can scale up and down, either independently based on your demand. And that's why it's interesting to kind of learn about it and know it exists. Now, in terms of developing do I develop a microservice compared to a node web server? Basically, there's no difference. Microservice, okay, I'm kind of simplifying, but basically, it is a web server in the same way. However, you don't tend to communicate from a browser to a microservice directly. What you tend to do is communicating between a browser, a web server, and then that server will communicate to your microservice. And it tends to not use the typical HTTP protocol that you have between a browser and a server. Because when you talk between servers, you can have way more optimized and way more optimized and more efficient protocol. And in this video, we will touch on it today, we try. But we'll look at other communication ways. Okay. So in the past, I've done microservice, and if you were to start a prediction and say, okay, which microservice do I want to do? I wouldn't recommend what we will do today. But today we kind of do it from scratch, and we're going to using libraries that are for that, something like Nest.js. Why is it sharing my screen? So it looks like it's not updating which Windows. Still. So we're going to use frameworks as I like for that, and one of them I like to use is Nest.js. So yeah, JavaScript frameworks are very, what to call that? They're very confusing. So you have Next.js, which is for the server-side rendered React application. You have Next.js, which is for server-side rendered Vue application. And then you have Nest.js, which is just a node server. The main thing with Nest.js is that I come from the Java world, so I'm used to something like Spring Boot, Spring Boot, which has a lot of things already available to you, and in the JavaScript and Node.js world, I think Nest.js is probably what comes the closest. It is very opinionated, meaning that don't force you, but it is better to do things in a certain way, following certain pattern, which when you write big application is actually helping you, forcing you to do things actively. Then, but what's good with Node.js is that by default it's just an Express server with just a few things on top, and then you can have multiple library and multiple things to expand on it. So like, if you want to just do microservice, you're like, okay, what do I want my microservice to talk to each other? Will you use Redis, MQTT, I don't know what Node.js is actually, RabbitMQ, we'll probably see that in a future video. Kafka is in the past, RabbitMQ and Kafka are similar. I find Kafka quite cumbersome to use, and I've used it before, so that's why I choose to use RabbitMQ this time. They're basically event queue protocol, so basically it's for your microservice that to communicate to each other by an event, think about queue of events that are distributed to the different microservice. But what we look for authentication microservice would be gRPC. RPC stands for Remote Protocol Calls, Remote Procedure Calls, sorry. Basically it's being able to run a function on a browser server as if it was a function from this protocol. So we look into that. I never used it before, so one of the things in these videos have given just research as well, so if you're thinking this gonna just be a tutorial you follow line by line, that's not the case. we're gonna go together and try to figure things out together because I don't know everything, and the stuff I know, and then I forgot, so we all know most of the term of developer is Googling stuff, so we Google stuff together. So yeah, I would recommend if I were to do a microservice to use something like Node.js, that uses just Google Node.js microservice and Unified Printers as a library and frameworks to OP. So that's that for the microservice. Yeah, so we do authentication microservice. The main reason we do microservice is that all the different parts of the application will use it. So that's something we could have done that authentication is only part of our API backend, but then we might want to authentify to be all front-end to be able to authentify which users without having to use the backend and say maybe multiple websites that can use the same authentication without having to call the same backend. So that's why using a microservice for that cases is useful. As well, if you were to do prediction server, I actually wouldn't recommend to create your own authentication microservice. Authentication and particularly handling passwords is something in terms of security is very critical. And also kind of relatively safe way and kind of best practices for doing that. But to be honest, I would recommend just use AWS Cognito, use Google Authentication Service, use Auth0, or use other open source authentication service that exists. I can't remember the few. Yeah, just use what Amazon, Azure, and GCP provide you because you know that they will have all the best practices and security layer that are needed for protecting your password. You don't need to worry, and you know they will be available 99.9999% of the time. So why should you bother doing it? Why are we doing it? Because we're here to learn. But if it's a production server, I wouldn't bother. And the main thing is that most of the time those services will have all surveilling missiles and will have like all login Google, getting Apple. You can set that up in a couple of clicks rather than having to set up everything in multiple. So you need to sign up with Google and sign up with Apple in this course because it's to be to set up both or off, which is a bit of a pain. So I wasn't going to do that. So if you're at the point where you're supposed to, yeah, go to the sign up with Google, have a look at AWS Cognito, Auth0, or any other authentication services that are like turnkey solution. And most of the time, if you have less than 10,000 unique users, you don't pay anything, so why bother? Okay, so let's get started. I can see my ID is not updating user. This is annoying. So what about that? That's everything hopefully it's big enough to be able to see. That's the terminal and then the engineer. Okay, So in the previous video we set up a project, we used YAML, and we basically created all different packages. We created our use folder, which is for all the shared information. And here we get started with the authentication service. So yeah, we can keep it thick. We can keep it authentication, yes. So now we said we will use Express for that, so I guess the best is to use our best friend we know is that whole to create a microservice for Express. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, you can see the main thing is so we so here I recommend to use module.export, which is code.js. I think modules as a conceive the idea. Maybe if I split so both are updated, but I spent time to set it up, but then when you close the window it doesn't update, which is disappointed. Put folders together. Yeah, it's a bit harder to read, but hopefully you'll be able to follow. So by default I now created all modules, and you can see it use module.exports, which I think use module.js, common.js I think, modules, was it ES modules? I think it's common.js modules. We're gonna use that, we're gonna use ES modules. But for that, we need in all package JSON, we need to say module 2. This is for example, I go to use JS import. This is import. The type module, here we go. When I told you I would Google, spend most of my time Googling stuff, because I didn't lie. So this is very old or NPM, but this package is a module, so we can then use so import way to import things and export just for the cleaner. You can see here a little bit of that import express. And if I read as well quick, I'm fine because we're gonna use our random variable. It's not important later on, so we will run all different part of the software in Docker, and we use it to code Docker compose to put all the different parts together, and having to use environment variable makes things so much easier going on, so we might as well start well. So we do boot, although I choose the 2000 because it's used by a lot of things, same thing 5000, so I like to make my stuff up, and we stop 6000. There's always a lot of people are using the same thing, so that's enough. We have a fullback. Building so that way we know before we have maybe different if it's on the main element. So that's your start. Here we go, we have an Express server running. First thing first though, we need to install the different package. So we go to the packages, and this is the authentication service. And then we do this from npm install Express and upload. And if I to run, so we will put my building, so it hasn't picked it up from the bottom of the posting. Where is that? Is it equals has to be in that file. There we go, yeah, that's right. It's to be in the same folder. Okay, so we got Express server running. At the moment it doesn't do anything. We can do stuff later on. If you're wondering as well what I'm using for CID, using utility. Using VS Code is actually the same. I just used utility. I like it. It makes a lot of things easy, like you just click a button to run and you can fly, for instance. Actually, let's try how you typically do it. So you will have a script, you will have something like start, and it will run. But, so if I do start, and then, yeah, that was fine. The bottom needs to be in a folder you're running it from. So if you're running the file, needs to be the other one, but if you're running from, this is the route where your package addressing is. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Let's try again. So if I don't put a lot of in the route of the project where the package addressing is, but we can run start, we will try to get off in that folder, just not to reuse it as often. The top has to be where the package addressing is to be found when you run it with npm scripts. Otherwise, if you're just running the file, if I were to just type city in the root folder and then do just node authentication, then you can see it running the other port because it doesn't find the old file. So we're only gonna run things with npm scripts. So that's why we don't have this to be in the route. Hope it makes sense. Okay, so what are we gonna do first? So here we're gonna create a start script first. Just realized support CTOS, so the music online, so we're gonna start script, which means we need to install it. npm script. Okay, and then we need then to change all package addressing so that we will install TS node that allows to run things without having to build first and then run node, so we can use TS node directly. Okay. And then based on that we can run TypeScript, so we can now change and rerun if so needs. We'll do this later because we set up jest for that. We use jest because it's always better this we stay on GS. However, the main thing is that we will create a new folder called source folder, and we'll create a new file in that folder that will be our index. Yes. Basically it will be the start of our TypeScript folder, and we need as well a TS config. TS config is I misspelled. Create our TS config to JSON. Okay, so now so that we have that, just use the command files. So we have in our TS config, we have open options. Target. Version we can target X next. Just be safe. We can target 22. Be safe. Use track modes because I don't really like it. We say we have source mode, and I think that would be enough. We include the source folder. And then OT, I think. Let me check. So again we got TS. So now we have our index, this TS. Actually we just copy paste in. What we had should work as a TypeScript. Basically still in TypeScript. We can still use the S module with TypeScript. Still doesn't like it. doesn't need to be like that then. Oops. Okay. Let me just make sure. So types for express, so it's fine. It's about to be enabled by options. No, this will be terminal. Configured. So now if I do the replication JSON, if I do script build, so it's just not targeting authentication anymore. It's going to target the source, and that's going to be index, and then build, CSC. So now if I do build, also doesn't work. Now we're missing to the put. Obviously I put the test config in the wrong folder. It has to be in the right folder with the package of JSON. So now if I build, okay, it doesn't like it when I don't. Know the kinds of types, unfortunately not like it more. Let's try again. It has built, so let's see what's been built. In the recorder, we have our index.json, you can see. Basically it doesn't really do anything because it doesn't really convert any TypeScript to JavaScript, because it's so simple right now. But we offshore the top tooling is working. It doesn't get authentication.js anymore. Bye-bye. And just make sure it's not called index. So this.main basically tell Node that all module as a main thing is index.json, Node.js. So when we build or project and compile a TypeScript to JavaScript and then use Node to run it, then it will run that index.js. So that's just in a nutshell. But in development, we just use so start, a big group start, which is just Node, everything configured. Start, it is just Node, so we actually can run TypeScript directly. It doesn't, it's kind of combined on the fly. One file extension. Error. What did I do wrong again? Options, configuration, error. But yeah, just Node, just doesn't care. Yes. Better. Is it right? Index the tears. Tears. Don't forget the case. What's it? Second line. That's working. That was slightly annoying. Let's try. So let's do correctly. It's basically a bit of conflict between TypeScript and PM because it was trying. I don't know what it was doing. It just yeah, if you use TypeScript, you could use type module in the package of JSON. But if you are using yes module internal in just config, you should be fine. But I don't know. You have to use the dash anyway, it's working. So we have been removed several running. However, if I to update here, I don't know, we change the text. It's not updating on the fly. It's not watching for file change, so you have to stop the server and restart it. Which is a bit annoying. So we'll keep it like that for now, but just know there are some other tools like Node1 for the browser. Typically we use Node1 to do that. Yeah. I actually just noticed that you never joined as well. Thank you for the messages. I don't know what happened in the chat. Because if I click another window, it just disappears. Anyway, Apple here sound like a robot. Wow, that's not great. Let me unplug my microphone and replug it. Sounding better. Let me see. Let's repeat the video. Let me talk. Let's see if that's better. Still doesn't work. Okay.
Is that better? Okay, yeah, that works better. Okay, stupid microphone. It's good I saw the messages, but maybe half an hour too late. Hopefully that wasn't too detrimental. I'm not saying anything interesting anyway. But yeah, what I was saying is that you have tools like NodeMon that basically can run automatically restart your server when a file change. We're not going to use that for now. It's not needed for now. Or you use a bundler like Webpack that has a server as well and take care of that for you. As far much as possible, we'll try not to use a bundler, just to see how far we can go without using a bundler. To be honest, that's kind of my challenge for today. Thank you for the messages. Do I know there's still one person watching on Twitch? Let's look at the chat. Yeah, the sound seems to be good. At least that's that. Okay, so the next step, if we look at the plan I had, and I feel like I'm going a bit too much out of the plan. First, we need to create a function that hash and verifies the password. So basically, we give a password and an email. Now we give a password. We need to be able to hash it. We give a password hash. We need to verify. Well, no, we give another password. We need to verify if it matches the hash. Then we need to create a function that creates our JWT, and then we need to create a function that verify the JWT. So those will be independent. I said independent of the server, but those are like kind of other functions that we will use. So let's get started with that. We'll close our server, go to our, we already know source folder, so that's good. And we'll create a file. We'll call Authentication utils.ts. Here we go. So what it's going to do, we're going to export function. It's called hash password, and we'll have a function verify password. And you can see that I'm using GitHub Copilot, and it already recommend me, hey, use bcrypt, and it's exactly what I was going to do. So we're going to install bcrypt. So bcrypt is basically kind of the standard for hashing and comparing passwords. Makes the life so much easier. We don't have to take care of having a salt. We don't have to take care of all of that. So it's all taken care of with us for us. So import bcrypt. I'm not showing the IDE again. Sorry. So going back, I've created the authentication.utils files. I've installed bcrypt with npm, and I've created two functions. One is hash password, and one is verify password. How do we test that if that's working well? Well, the best is to create a unit test. And you will tell me, oh, Loic, you did things the wrong way around. You should have created your test first and then create your functions. I know, you're right, but that's not my fault. It's GitHub Copilot that wrote the code for me. When I just wanted to write the name of the functions, but then it added everything. So maybe I should disable it for this. Maybe we'll do that for tomorrow. So, okay, how do we do the test? So we're gonna use jest. So we're gonna install jest npm in. Feels like we've just been installing stuff. That's the life of a web developer, installing npm packages. And that's a dev jest and TypeScript jest. I think we need. Why jest? Because it's basically the most common you will find. Yes, jest. Basically, we need to install jest and we need to use a thingy that will allow jest to test TypeScript files. Otherwise, jest by default can only do JavaScript files. And we'll go back to our folder, the authentication folder, which contains our package.json, and that's where we will create our jest config. So we'll touch jest config.ts. Here we go. And then basically just keeping the default things. And why are the ticks wrong? Basically, it's telling just any file that has a TS in it. We're not going to use TSX, so we can remove it. Any file that has a TS in it, use TS jest. And to transform it, basically. Should we give that a try? How do we give that a try? So our test will just be jest, because normally it's configured. And then what do we need to do? We need to write test, which so you can either write in a test folder, or you can write next to the files, like whichever you prefer. One thing I forgot, we need a git ignore as well file for here. So we did a git ignore, and we want to ignore that lib folder, which is automatically created for us. Here we go, it's being ignored. You can see it's a different color in my IDE. The reason for that is that we basically don't want the compiled file to be part of Git. We only want the source files. So we'll delete this one, and in the test folder, so we're gonna go touch test contype, and we'll have it the same name as the file we want to test. That will be authentication.utils the specs.ts. So by convention, test file are finished by .test or .spec. I like the .spec better. Don't ask me why, I just like it better. And then now we can use our test. So we start with a describe. We're not using no test because we're using test jest. So just so you know, I think it's in the latest version of Node. Can't remember the number, but in the it will be 23 or 24, probably 23. Node came up with their own test library. So if it import describe from Node test, it is not using jest for testing, but it's using the Node test library. I never used it. so I don't know how it is. So for this time, I'd rather stick to what I know, which is jest. So we'll describe, and then yeah, we're gonna test a module that is for the authentication utils. We'll tell, and then we should have a first test. It should hash my password. Okay, and so one thing is those are hash sync. Actually, what I want to have async functions so that we can use promises. Okay, I will remove all of that. So we're gonna use async functions. It's gonna return promises. So it's not returning a string, it's returning a promise that have a string. And same as the verify password, we'll have a promise. This boolean. Okay. And then here is not returning any, it's not complaining because I'm not returning my string. But here it is now, and here will always return false for now, so that at least match. And we can write our test, because otherwise, if there is any error for the TypeScript, it's a bit annoying. The test won't run, and that's a bit annoying. So we don't want to test the TypeScript, we want to test the functionality. So let's make sure the TypeScript is correct first, and then we write our test. So we'll have our first thing. We need to import our function. So we import hash password. We'll create the password. So tests typically have initialization, doing the action, and then verification. So the first one is we just create our password. This is very scary. That basically GitHub Copilot recommend you to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a password. That means it's used often as a password. That's, yeah. I guess it's people writing like tests like that. So now we create our hash password. That is passwords, and we expect it to be different. Now, how can we expect it to have the same hash? And that's where basically it's a bit difficult to test that it has been hashed correctly without actually implementing it directly. So sorry, it's not what I wanted. So technically, we will need to use bcrypt, but to verify how it has been, the hash is correct. Oh, we will need to basically hash it in a different way, but that's yeah, that's not really useful. Let's log our hash password. Just making sure it's working correctly, and as well, I want to show you exactly what the hash password with bcrypt looks like. And then yeah, we'll just have an expect. Actually be greater than done to equal, because every hash should have the same long length of character, if I'm correct. Bcrypt hash length. should all be 72 characters. Okay. So now we can run our test, npm run tests. It's running jests. It's running it found our file. Up, it has failed. They can't find our, oh yeah, because it's src. We need to wait for it. Here we go. So that will need to be an async. Now we can rerun our test. You go, it has failed because it's an empty string, so and it's not the 72 character that we are expecting. That's good. We have a failing test. That's the start. So now we need to implement our functionality. So like I said, we're going to use bcrypt, and very simply, we're going to ask it to hash our password. And so here, if I put a number, it's going to be the number of rounds. And what is a round of hashing? So it's like it hashes the password, and then it does that 10 times in a row. Takes the previous hash to do it. Why does you do that? Just to make it slower, so it takes longer to brute force. 10, to be honest, is a bit low these days. Like you can crack that relatively simply, if, depending on the password length, obviously. But yeah, the whole idea is to make it longer. So let's try that. Let's run our test. Here you go. It passed. No, it failed. Yeah, expected timeout. Okay, that's takes more than 5 seconds for 30 round, I guess. Or just 60 length apparently. Have I been lied to? Okay, I guess it's 60 then. Very good, has a length of 60. Or will it change every time? Technically, your hash should always have the same length. So okay, it was 60. So here you can see my hash has 2 parts, and basically one is the salt and the other one is the hash. And if I were to rerun my test, you will see that it's, although I will be using the exact same password, my hash and my salt will be different, hopefully. You can see the salt is different. Like even the salt is a different length, and then the hash is different. And then let's do something fully random and quite long. How does that change our length of our hash? In theory, it should be the same. Yeah, still the same. Still have the salt. No, I'm not really clear which part is the salt, which part is the thing, but bcrypt knows. That the main thing is that basically in the hash, bcrypt include all the information needed to compare it, and that's what we're gonna do now. So now it should verify my password. And by the way, if you're not using GitHub Copilot, this is why it's so fast, so easy. And yeah, we're gonna use a different password, something totally random. This will be a great password, you will never remember it. And then you hash the password using the previous function that you already test. And sometimes it's not really a good practice to do that because you're kind of testing two functions at the same time. But here we don't really have the choice without having to basically re-implement bcrypt itself. So yeah, here that's what we do. We basically, because we test before that the hashing is working well, we can then use it for our next tests. And if both tests pass, then that's fine. If the first one failed, the second one will fail. So here, if we run it, the second one will fail because we have said it always return false. And yeah, I forgot this. One thing I found with GitHub Copilot is that it tends to get some of the get quite a lot of time wrong, the brackets and things like that. Okay, you can see it failed because it's returning false rather than true. Now that's where we're gonna write our code. Bcrypt compare password hash password. This should work now. Let's rerun our test. Here you go, it passed. Now, this is not good enough in terms of test to make sure that we've implemented that correctly. So we should do the next one where it should fail if password is different. So very similar. We'll create a password, we'll create a wrong password. We'll hash the first password and then we'll verify that wrong password with the one that is hashed. The main thing is that you will never know what the original password is, you will only know the hashed password. And then you make sure it is false. And in theory, that should be fine. Otherwise, I'm gonna report a bug ticket to bcrypt because that's would mean bcrypt doesn't work and doesn't do its job. Here you go. We have our password they hashed, and we have a way to basically safely store a password and then verify it. That's the first step for an authentication method, being able to basically have a password and be able to verify it. Now, what would be the next step? The next step will be to create JWT token. It's not JWT token, it's JWT because the T in JWT stands for token. So we're gonna search a bit and create JWT. So what's a JWT? It's a basically encrypted token that allow to identify a user, some permissions, and something like that. So you have some encoded data that will be stored on the client, and for each request that client make, they would the server will decode that token and figure out, oh, okay, who made that request. The main thing is that this code is encrypted. I know which and it's signed because I know it's encrypted, but it needs a key, and only the server has a key. That's the main thing. That's where your security is. That your server has a secret, and only that server can decode it. And that's one thing. And the other thing is that you can't falsify a token. So make sure basically that server has created the token with that key, and then that server can verify it. So in the same way, we'll have export function, create JWT, and we have user, and it will return a string. Don't think it needs to be promise. And then we'll have a function decode JWT, and it return a user. So here, that's the main thing. We need to create our user type. And I will actually just name it auth user, because we're probably likely gonna have different type of users and so on. So the main thing is to have a auth user. So that's where we're gonna use our shared folder. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing the ID again. Let me go back. So I've created a function that creates a JWT that expects a user that will return a string. And then we have a function that decodes the JWT that expects the token, which is a string, and will return an auth user. Now we will create that auth user, and that's where we're gonna use that libs folder where everything is shared, because we want that auth user to be not just defined in the authentication microservices, but basically the front end will have it as well, the back end will have it as well, and so on. So that's why we're going to go in the libs folder. Libs stands for like libraries. We're going to create a folder, create interface. So that's where we'll have all our interfaces that are shared between the different services and different parts of the software. Okay, and then we'll create a file that will be just auth user.ts. Okay, if I go, it has created it and it's available here. So okay, so what our auth user is gonna be? User, it's an interface first. So if you're not familiar with TypeScript and how to type objects and things like that, I recommend you to look at it because yeah, that's quite important. That's like the base, and I'm not going to go in detail into it. I just assume you know about TypeScript, you know what an interface is, you know what the type is. And we just have user ID, which is a string. We'll have the email, and we'll have a display name. We'll keep it simple for now. You can see like Copilot was recommending things like roles and things like verified. We'll keep it simple for now. just like simple information about the user, and that was going to be that. So here we can import it. However, you can see it uses a lot of three dot 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 dot. I don't really like that. So what we can do is that in our TS config, if I remember correctly, TS config. Let me go to the browser a second. Specify folders. Let me see the TS config options. Yeah, so it's paths. Here we go. So I make sure I go back to the IDE so you can follow. So in our compiler options, we're just adding paths. And I like to add the libs. It's not going to be SRC, it's going to go back once to be in the packages folder, back a second time to be in the route folder, and then that's going to be all in the libs. So in theory, if that works well, I can just do at libs, and then TypeScript will replace that with, okay, this is where it's going. And that path is relative to that ts config.json. So it will know where to find it. It will replace it. Okay. And here it's expecting an off user, and here we're returning that. So that's going to be just an empty thing. Okay. We have our functions. We have our types. What should we do? A test. So let me move to the next test, and we create another. So this one was all about passwords. And now we'll do the next one about GWT. And then it should create a GWT. We'll have our user. What the email will be joe at example.org. And the last one, so our user needs to be type of user. And my ID hasn't been clever enough. Okay, so the next bit is, if I remember well, it doesn't work in the test, that trick. Can't remember why, but here you go. We have our user, and we'll close the bracket for that user. So we'll have const token, create our JWT. And then we expect our token to be a certain length. Because there's some things that will be all certain length. We'll change the number after because I don't know what the length it is for now. Okay. So how do we create JWT? Well, there are thankfully things that help us for that. And what I recommend to use is a tool called Passport.js, which is authentication thing uh, for a lot of things. And you can see you have like loads of different way, but what we're interested is GWT strategy. And actively, so is that what we want, or do we um, so we'll do it more by hand. Create GWT node. Okay. So we recommend NWT. Let's see. Last update January. I don't really like that, but it might not be the best. Mm. Let's see if there's any other libraries I recommend. Yeah, it's just JSON web token, if I remember correctly. Which has been done by Auth0. Latest update in August. That's not that recent still, but more recent than January. But that's what is typically being used, and so that's what we're gonna use. Okay, back in our IDE, we're gonna go back to our authentication microservice, and we're gonna install it. Check in the chat. No new message in the chat. Here we go, and it's been installed. Okay, and then to create a JWT, it's very simple. We import JWT from JSON Web Token, and then this will return JWT.sign. User, we need private key. And we need an algorithm. I need to install the types for the library. So it doesn't know. and I need to get what's a private key. So our private key, we'll define it from our .env. I won't name it private key, but JWT key. Just in case we have other private key for something else, and that's gonna be process.env JWT. Oops, I can't type. Okay. Okay, we'll have a fallback, which will be mostly for the tests. We go, and then here, this is basically the key that's going to be used for encoding and decoding the tokens. So it has to be safe. It has to be complicated. You don't generate it manually. You will generate something. But here for demo, we'll just my very complicated and secret key. Which obviously is totally unsafe. Do not use that for production, but you can find online services that will create totally random keys for you. Some people will say don't trust those services, but I don't log every single key that they ever generate. But anyway, okay, we create the token. Let's test that. Game run test. Then I promise we're almost there after that. Must be an asymmetric key when using a. Oh yeah. Yeah, the keys needs to be cryptographic keys actually. An AES key. That makes sense. So one good thing. So if you see what we use RSA algorithm. So maybe we can use SSH keygen to generate a key. Let me read more about the library. Let me share the browser so you can follow. Basically, it's using the RSA algorithm. I don't know if you're familiar with yeah, okay, yeah. That's because that algorithm need a key. And but we don't want asymmetric algorithm, we want symmetric, basically only having one key. And then that would work. we can specify when we want it to expire. So that's the main thing. Expires in, and we'll just say, yeah, 1 hour. Just usually say like 15. So usually the way it works with tokens is that you will have short-lived tokens, like JWT, that are very short-lived, half an hour, 15 minutes. But then you will have things like refresh token. So let's say every half an hour your token expires, but you try to log in again. Oh, your token has expired, it won't work. So it will try, it will use your refresh token to generate a new token. So that's how site keep you signed in, but still in a very secure way. You don't want people to be signed in forever, because what happens if their account is disabled or things like that. That's why you have a refresh. When it refresh, it verify you still have the permissions and things like that before creating a new token, if that makes sense. We're not going to do that now. Maybe later on, but for now, we'll keep things simple. So we create our token. And let's test that. Obviously, it's not going to work. The test's going to fail, but hopefully it's going to generate our token. That's what I meant. Here we go. That's creating the token. Interesting to see if the token length is always the same. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what we can test. Okay. Okay. In theory, it should always be. I don't know which algorithm it's using then. If you don't specify to use the RSA algorithm, yeah, it changes every time. So by default, if you're not using, sorry, I wasn't sharing the ID again, but so yeah, by default, if you're not using specifying the algorithm, it use SHA 256, which means it can have a length anywhere between 200 and 232, I think, something like that. That's why we can't just check. This should work regardless of what our what our user is. The same thing for decoding, and I could do gwt dot decode token. Okay, we'll say we'll decode the token. What are the decode option? Not really sure. What do we get from the gwt decode? Token log. let's run that. Let's see what happens. In theory, if we decode it, it should bring me back my user. I think I need to provide a key now for decoding as well. And no, it does have everything. So I guess a token. So we to equal. So basically, we testing that once we decode the token, it has the right ID, the same as the original one, making sure everything worked correctly. Let's try that. Hmm. Is it a string, my decoded token? So it user ID doesn't exist on type. It's a bit of a hack. I don't like doing that. But let's just try for now if that works. Okay, it decodes it fine. Now my question is, how is it able to decode it without giving it the secret? Because in theory, yes, you should verify. So you sign it with a secret, an expiration date. Then the verify moves the same token. Then be able to decode it. Okay. Yes, maybe it's written in a token, it's storing information about it that allow to decode it. Not 100% sure. But anyway, so to decode it, I think we have to do two things. Verify token. Yeah. So we verify the token. What does it do? And if it fails, we're going to throw an error. Basically, throw new error invalid token. We'll see another time how to create custom errors, because what you would want to do here is create a custom error that is like bad authentication error. Actually, let's do that. Let's go to our libs folders. Let's create an errors folders. So those are errors that will be shared. And then we'll touch of error.ts, and then put it in the wrong folder. That off error. Then we just export tools, export class off error, that extend error, and it just have a slightly different name. But then that means we can throw that off error. Okay. You will see in the test, it will make sense. So we'll do a couple of tests. It should decode our token. So we'll have the same user. Not it, if it. Let me go back to the IDE. So we go back to the test. Does this much? Yeah. So we need to create a JWT and we need to decode it. Authentication utils. So it's called decode JWT for token. Okay, and we expect to have the same user ID. Okay, so now if I run the test, sorry, wrong command, it's getting late. So we run the test. Okay, it fails. Yeah, the test don't like the at libs. I need to figure that out, but for now, we'll just have which is ugly as hell. I'm sure there's a way of doing it, but I know in test it doesn't like it. Chess doesn't like it. There's probably a way to configure it. There you go, it's working. So now we'll see what happened. It should fail if the token is invalid. So we'll create a random token. something totally random. The likelihood of this being a valid thing is very likely. And then we use so we expect the code GWT to throw error, and I think our error we need to say that it's off error. So that's why we create specific errors, because it will be an error of a specific type. Oops, it's imported. Okay. So now if we run our tests, hopefully this will work. Although I know we're doing a lot of tests, but when you work in backend and you don't really have the server or anything, it's better. Like the test is really that's how you make sure things works correctly. That's like the easiest way to test those functions. Otherwise, how would I test if those are set up and working correctly? Like I don't know a better way, or I don't know a faster way than that, to be honest. That's working fine. We'll remove unnecessary logs. And now we'll commit our change. So we'll go to the main folder. Don't think it matter. So git add all, so that all the files we created have been added. And now we commit our changes. Git commit -m fit created functions for hashing password and creating the WT in off microservice. Great, we have that. Now, because it's getting late, we're just going to do one last thing. And that last thing will be, can you log in with a user, a password, and then just get a token based from that. And then if you send that token, can you make sure that user is identified? Okay, let's go. So we're gonna reopen our authentication or index. So don't know if you remember, that's where we had our Express server. But all those functions we done have nothing to do with Express. Like we didn't need Express for that. But we set up our good Express server. So we're gonna create a route in Express that will accept post request, and it will be the login. Okay. And that all login will have request, response. Now from that post, we need to get the body from that post request. If you're not familiar with the difference between get, post, put, patch, request, just go read on that. Just assume you know those. But so we want the body. So we'll do rec.body. Then we need to make sure that body contain a username and a password. Email and password. So the first thing is if the Copilot not being helpful this time. So if we don't have a username, and actually I did say it's email, not username. And we don't have a password. We should send an error to the user basically, and you can see it's already doing that. Like Copilot is helping me here for once, and it's telling me it's gone. But yeah, we're gonna take the response. We're gonna say status 400. Same thing. Those are HTML error code. It's the standard. Go on Wikipedia, read about the different one. The 400 is bad request. So, and we'll send basically an error saying email and passwords are required. Very simple. We could make that better, creating. They are kind of HTTPS error type, the same way we created the authentication type. They are those ones that you could throw and that automatically will do that. But this is simple and enough and works well. It gives the right status code, so meaning your browser will know there's been an error, the right status. Everybody will know what type of error it is, and then you have an error message that is clear and concise that explains how to fix the error. Basically, saying, "Hey, your email and passwords, both of them are required. One of them must be missing." So now that we've handled the wrong scenario, let's go to the right scenario. We assume we have an email and a password. We go to the next step. Verify that email and verify that password. Now, at the moment, we don't have a database, and we're not gonna go into that right now because it's a bit late. It's gonna take some time. We'll save that for tomorrow. But in the meantime, I will just make that. I will just say there is just one user, and that has one email. So that user is. We'll create. Do it simple. We'll create a list of users. Let's assume that's my database, which is an array. Like this is just for demo purposes for creating the route. But email joe example.org hash password. We'll add that later. And then we need the name. Okay, and I could have a list of multiple users. I should have a function to do check if user exists. So right now, yeah, we just find, okay, in our list of users, do we have our user email? But technically we should have users, and we'll do that later. We'll have a user service that is in charge of making that to get us the off user back. And here, yeah, it's an array of auth user. That's just for demo purposes for now. So it is not auth user. It is auth user and hashed. This is an extension of auth user. So it is an auth user with as well the hash password. Do I need to do that? Here we go. It needs to be display name. And I need the user ID as well, obviously. That's going to be our first user. So this is my database. The moment has one user. We're going to use that just for testing purpose right now. Here, we should be using a service that returns the user. We'll do that tomorrow or next video. And then, yeah. So here, if there's no user, we return the error saying invalid username and or password. Error 4.1, which is authentication error. Okay. What's the next step? Yeah, check if the password is correct. Copilot knows this better than I do. So how do we check? We use our verify password from authentication util. Here we go. This should be a nesting function. Okay. It's valid. So we verify the password and something. If it's not valid, we send the same error message that the email and password is incorrect. So that's the next bit. So next things as well. We know we create our token. We have our user. So we want to remove the hash password from the user. And so this is a trick. If you want to remove one field from the user, you can use deconstructions, which is an exist things where you use the three dot, and then you will have the things you want to remove, and then the rest, which is what you want to keep. And that way, we'll not limit rest, we'll limit host user, and then we can use it for create JWT. Was the wrong. Okay, const JWT, and now we can return res.send or JWT. Voila. Recapitulate. To log in, we check if there's a username and password. We check if we can find the user in the database based on the email. If we don't find it, we return an error. Then we verify the password. If the password is not valid, we remove it, and then we send the token. But actually, the best way, typically, that is done is not just to send the token, but express attach JWT to cookie. So basically, the main thing for JWT is to save it in the cookies. Why? Because cookies are actually sent with every request you do to a server. So that means on a front end, it will be automatically attached to every request that I'm going to do going forward. Okay? And so, yeah. So we send the status, that is 200. We don't send the token as a response. We add it to the cookies. Let me go back to the IDE. And then yeah, cookie will do it. We'll name it just access token. Again, we'll give it a token, TWT, and then voila. We could add an expiration time, but because the cookie, the TWT already expires, yeah, I don't know if it's needed. And then you send basically error nil. And voila. So that means everything went fine. The cookie is attached to the request, and now we can go forward. Now, how do we test that? And more importantly, actually, let's create our in-memory database quickly. So we can create another endpoint that will be same a post request that will be to register. I'm just thinking we can actually create our user doing that. And that will be the same thing. We'll get the body. We're expecting from the body to have an email, password. Actually, I could do like a if that is going for a long time, but what I like to do is expected fields, and then yeah, the list, email, password, display names. Sorry. Okay, and then we check if and make sure that so like this check that all the elements in the list, we check that the requests have, have them basically. If one of them is missing, we return an error. That way, if in the future I want to add one, I would just add it here. And I don't need to figure it out later on. Okay, so that's our first thing. We're gonna do, at the moment, we're just gonna add it to our fake database. We're not gonna worry too much about it. So we're just gonna hash the password. Hash password. We hash our password and we just save our user for now. So we do users.push. Body should have all the fields we need. We add the hash password and we add user ID. Which is just iteration. Actually, we can do better than that. UID. Random UID. So since node 18, there is the node crypto module that does a random UID. So that way we make sure we don't need an extra things. We don't need anything else. It just creates the UID for us. That works very well. And just to be safe that it doesn't add things it shouldn't, we're not gonna just destructure the body. We're just gonna do email. Body.email. Then password. No, display name. Body.display name. And then the last one. No, we don't need anything else. Because if I didn't do that, he would have stored the password in a database, which is very bad. So here you go. We have saved, and now we can just run that everything is correct. 200. Okay. Let's try it now. Hopefully that works. Let's run our server. So we'll do npm run start. I'm not in the right folder. We'll run npm run start in the authentication folder this time. Hopefully I didn't do anything wrong. Here you go. It's running on port 6000. How do I test that? That's the question. So I'm using IntelliJ, which will allow me to run things like HTTP requests, but for everybody's sakes, we are gonna use Postman, which if you never use Postman, it is kind of the de facto standard for everything. One second, I'm running my Postman. Now you have to sign in to Postman. Not the best. And let me create a new workspace for this is the wrong screen. Or here we go. So sharing my screen, creating a workspace for it, clinical study. Okay. We don't need environment for now. We'll create that later. Collections. Create collection. We'll name it authentications. I hope it's visible enough. I know I like to have a big resolution because I like to have a lot of space on my screen and have big screens. But hopefully you're able to kind of guess that. Okay, and we'll add a request, which will be to just name it register. That's a post request. It's going to be to localhost 6000. And what do we have in our body of our request? Pro JSON. Actually, that's one thing I forgot is to add to express JSON body parser. Let me see. Because if we don't have that, then we can't pass that JSON data. So we'll import body parser. Okay, and we'll do express.use, well, app.use. body parser.json. So this should allow, hopefully it's not too small, you're able to read, see, but basically we added the body parser JSON to be able to parse JSON coming from the body. So like, otherwise if I do rec.body, it's just going to be a text. But here with that parser, it will automatically take any request and replace the body by the JSON, which will allow me then use Postman and send my data by JSON. So we'll have an email. We'll name it Joe at example.org as always. We'll have a very secure password. And what will we have? Display name. Or did I name it just name? No, display name. Okay, and to make sure it's working well, we'll log the users. So this is just like our fake database. We'll do that a bit cleaner and better when we'll have a proper database in the next video. And so if I start my server now, okay, and I send, I get an error, cannot post. Did I didn't HTTP here? Okay, that's not what I was expecting. It could be going wrong. Let's add more logs to our server to see what's happening. So npm install Morgan. So Morgan is a tool for logging what's happening in Express. Okay, let's rerun the server just to make sure is it actually reaching the server, or am I doing something wrong? Connection refuse. Okay, now it's running. Post full. Ah, yeah, I'm an idiot. I need to do the / register. Here you go. It sent error null, and you can see my user has been added and it has hash password. Okay, so now this is good. At the same time, I showed you. See, it's shown that the endpoint has been called. How long it took to reply? What was the status code? Thank you, Morgan. That's a useful tool. So now we'll do the login. So in no, I don't want a new collection. I want to create a new request. That's too much to ask. Looks like it. Add requests. New request. Login. So same thing is gonna be HTTP 6000, but that's gonna be login. That's gonna be post request. with a JSON body that will have the same email password, basically. And if I send it, no error, went fine. You can see. But like, how do we know I'm actually logged in here? That's the trick. And hopefully you can see if I click cookie here on the tab of Postman, you can see I have my JWT token here in the cookies. And it's valid for all the session, which means any following requests that I make, and we can actually test that here. So any app dot get we'll do get request. We'll just say check cookie, and we'll just console log the cookie, and we'll return it as well, just for the sake of it. Okay, if I rerun, okay, it's running. So now, if I do the same check cookie, it isn't defined. Oh, that's interesting. Why is that? Because it is R. Do I need to put the cookie parser to add the cookie parser to Express? Yeah, last thing before going to bed. Too many tabs open. Yeah, I think I need to add cookie parser to Express, otherwise it's not using them. So we'll do that. PLE cookie parser. Voila. Import cookie parser. And we use it. So now let's go back. Let's rerun our server. By the way, telling me if you like seeing that split screen, or if it's like too small and hard to follow. But here you go. If I not have the cookie parser, you can see the cookie is there, the server has it. That means every request I will make, I didn't have to specify anything. I didn't have to use any authorization or anything. But any request I will make going forward will be authenticated with that cookie. And that's something that is handled here by Postman, but more importantly, something that is handled automatically by the browser going forward. So like when I will do my front end, I don't need to bother. I just call the login and then I'm logged in. There's a slight things around refresh token and things like that that we can handle later on. But for internal purposes. Now I'm logged in. I have a token that has been created on the server that is valid only for a certain amount of time, that can't be falsified. The only security thing is that anybody who has that token can then pretend it's me. But if you're using HTTPS, you can't have someone in the middle intercepting those cookies. And those cookies are just sent to your specific website. So like that's why third-party cookies are bad, and they can get banned from browsers, because for security reason you want a cookie to just be available by the site that created it, basically. So that's it. I think that's gonna be enough for now. It's getting late. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna commit the code. Git add all. I don't think there was anything else. Git commit. Git commit, and what will be this? Yeah, the message. Feature. So what did we do? Added login and register endpoints. Good. So that's going to be that. Next step is clean that up. Clean that up. Rather than using like a database that is kind of hacky, which is like in memory, basically. We're going to have a proper database that we'll set up in Docker. We'll have a proper way of accessing it and getting data from it using a repository pattern. Because what I won't do, I won't like link check. I won't have like running my SQL query here. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not running my SQL query in my route, because if tomorrow I'm changing how my database is structured, I'm changing what database I'm using, then I need to rechange all my SQL queries. That's not something I want to do. So we'll look at our first design pattern, which will be the repository pattern, to make that easier. And then that will be the good start. And then if we have time, we'll look at gRPC to say, hey, because okay, we can register, we can log in, that's good, we have a token. But then when I call another service, another API, I want that API to know which user actually called that API. So we'll need that other service to be able to communicate with my authentication microservice to be able to verify the token, basically, and tell me, hey, who is it that just asked me that? So we'll do that in the next video. Thank you, and good